There are men who walk into a room without saying much, yet every pair of eyes naturally finds its way to them. It's not because they're wearing an expensive suit, nor because they have a face that makes people turn their heads. It's because they carry something rare, a calm, steady energy that makes others feel safe and draws them in like a magnet. Women are not addicted to muscles, wallets, or sweet words. They're addicted to the way you stand firm when everything around you is chaos. They're addicted to the calm in your eyes, when you know exactly who you are and need no one to validate it. They're addicted to the sense that you could walk away at any moment, not out of arrogance, but because you are complete even without them. What women remember most are not the men who try to impress them, but the men who leave a deep mark without even trying. This kind of magnetism is not loud. It can't be borrowed or imitated. It only appears when you strip away weak habits and replace them with self-control, clarity, and the steadiness of stone. In today's video, we'll walk through 10 principles that will make you the kind of man a woman can't forget. Not because you chase her, but because she can't stop being pulled toward you. If you've ever grown tired of trying too hard, it's time to take a step back and let your very calmness make her step closer. Before we get into the main content of today's video, make sure to subscribe and support the Light of Wise Elders team. Now, let's begin. 1. Stop seeking approval. Let her come to you. Most men fall into the same trap. They believe that to make a woman like them, they must constantly prove their worth. They bring flowers, give compliments, text every morning and night, always finding something to do to keep her from leaving. But they fail to realize that the more they do this, the more they give off the scent of need. And that scent is something a woman can detect from far away. When you seek approval, you are quietly handing her the power to decide your value. Every answer, every reaction you give depends on whether she smiles, replies to your messages, or gives you her time. You become like a gambler placing all his hopes on the roll of someone else's dice. And this is not strength, it's dependency. In contrast, a man who doesn't need approval walks into any interaction with ease. He doesn't try to please, doesn't scramble for the right thing to say, doesn't keep checking whether he's making a good impression. He is simply himself, complete, steady, and certain of who he is. And that very quality makes women open up more, soften their voice, and hold their gaze a little longer. Women are instinctively drawn to men who are not looking for them to fill an empty space inside. The peace you radiate becomes like a safe haven. She may be playful, curious, even test you, but deep down, she knows your presence doesn't depend on her approval. The only way to reach this state is to shift your focus from, how can I make her like me, to, how can I live true to myself? When you validate yourself through discipline, personal goals, and keeping your own promises, you no longer need anyone else to label you as good enough. From the moment you stop chasing approval, the game changes. You are no longer the pursuer, you become the anchor. And when you stand firm in your own strength, the people who truly deserve you will be drawn to you, as naturally as the earth pulls everything toward its center. 2. Attraction begins when you no longer need validation. Wanting someone to notice you is completely natural, but needing them in order to feel complete, that is where your value begins to erode. When your confidence depends on the reaction of a woman, you've placed all your power in her hands, and instead of growing, attraction withers right there. Think about conversations you've had in the past. Have you ever felt that the other person was weighing every word, scanning your face for signs of approval? It feels awkward, unnatural, and pressured. Women feel exactly the same when standing in front of a man who needs their validation to feel worthy. A truly attractive man does not see women as judges who grade his existence. He knows he is already whole before he even walks into the room. He doesn't compare himself to other men to find his rank, nor does he design himself based on what he thinks she wants to see. Instead, he brings his authentic presence, unfiltered, unapologetic, and without auditioning for the part. And that fullness creates a deep pull. When you live in a state where approval is optional, not essential, every gesture you make becomes more natural. You don't rush to fill every gap with words. You don't scramble to save a moment of silence. You allow both of you to simply breathe in that space. And that's when she begins to feel the difference. Psychology calls this self-sufficiency, a quality extremely rare in an age where everyone chases likes and glances. In Stoicism, it's known as apatheia, freedom from disturbance. where you are no longer a slave to the opinions of others. And the paradox is, when you stop needing validation, people, especially women, begin seeking validation from you. From here, you step out of the game of performing to be chosen. You are no longer the one standing in line, but the one deciding who deserves to enter your world. This isn't arrogance, it's standards, and standards will always be more attractive than flattery. 3. Become the peace she can't walk away from. In a world full of noise, peace is a luxury, and because it's rare, it becomes irresistibly attractive, even addictive. Most men enter a relationship with restless energy, always trying to react quickly, reply instantly, or do something to keep her attention. They don't realize that this urgency feels like constant background noise, leaving women more drained than reassured. By contrast, a steady man is like a still lake deep in the forest. She comes closer, looks down, and sees a clear reflection of herself. She feels her heartbeat slow, her breathing deepen, her voice soften. This is the effect only truly calm men can create, a safe space where others can simply be themselves. Women, especially those who are strong and full of energy, crave a place where they can slow down, where they feel sheltered without being controlled. When you become that still point, your appeal isn't just on the surface. It reaches the deepest, most instinctive part of her that longs for stability in the midst of chaos. Stoicism calls this mastering your mind in the face of all disturbances. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you enter a conversation, a date, or even a conflict and still keep your composure, you send a silent message. I am not swept into the storm. I am the eye of the storm. And that sets you apart. Most men will react when challenged, explaining themselves, arguing, or trying to please to smooth things over. But you keep your own rhythm, not because you're cold, but because you choose not to let fleeting emotions take the wheel. When she realizes you are a place where her mind can rest, the connection deepens beyond any flirtation. And once she has found that peace, she won't want to leave, because it's far too rare to give up. 4. Don't react too quickly. Let silence speak. In an age where everyone is fighting to talk, silence becomes a form of power, but not the awkward, uncomfortable kind. The deliberate kind that makes others pause and pay attention. Most men fear gaps in conversation. They rush to fill them with jokes, compliments, or quick questions. They believe that if the silence lasts too long, interest will disappear. But the truth is the opposite. It's in the pause where attraction is created. When you don't respond immediately, you create a psychological vacuum. And human nature hates emptiness. A woman will start wondering, what is he thinking? Why isn't he answering right away? Did I have any effect on him? That curiosity draws her into the space you've created. This isn't about playing the silent treatment to manipulate someone, but about showing inner control. You don't let impulsive emotions drive your words. You think before you respond, and sometimes the best answer is no answer at all. Picture this. She teases you or challenges you with a sharp remark. Most men will rush to explain, argue, or joke back. But you don't. You just give a faint smile, hold her gaze, and let the silence do its work. In that moment, you've sent a clear message. I have nothing to prove. Stoicism teaches that silence is not an empty void, but a space for wisdom and strength to surface. When you remain silent with steadiness, you give the other person the feeling that they are standing before a man who is in control and not easily swayed. And once a woman has felt the weight of that presence, every word you say afterward carries more value, not because you speak better than others, but because you speak less. And every sentence is worth hearing. 5. Pre-selection. There's a truth many men don't realize. Women are often drawn to men who have already been chosen by other women. It's not that they enjoy competing, but evolutionary instincts push them to look for signals of safety and value. If other women, especially high-value women, are attracted to you, it quietly suggests you possess desirable traits: confidence, leadership, emotional strength, and social status. This is called pre-selection, but if used the wrong way, it backfires. Boasting about your romantic past, constantly mentioning your ex, or deliberately trying to spark jealousy are signs of insecurity, not attraction. True pre-selection is subtle, almost invisible, yet she still feels it. You don't need to display the women who've been in your life. The way you carry yourself says it all. A man who's used to women's attention doesn't chase after it. He doesn't flirt with every woman, doesn't cling to every compliment. He moves through life with a sense of sufficiency, knowing he has been, and will continue to be, chosen. This difference shows in the small details. The way you listen without rushing to respond. The natural smile that isn't fishing for a reaction. The way you let a conversation flow instead of trying to control it. Women quickly notice this isn't a man trying to score points. This is a man living at his own pace. And if anyone wants to join, they'll have to match it. Pre-selection also shows in your lifestyle. A man with a career, passions, quality friends, and a busy schedule naturally gives off the energy of being in demand. When a woman senses this, she starts wondering, who's paying attention to him? Does he see me as different from the others? That question is the spark, because when she begins comparing herself to other women in her mind, you've tapped into her competitive instinct, a force far more powerful than any pickup line. Remember, pre-selection isn't something you show off. It's something you live. When you genuinely have a rich life and are valued by others, you don't need to say it. She'll feel it. And once she feels it, she won't just want to be around you. She'll want to be chosen. 6. Hold your frame. If pre-selection gets a woman to notice you, holding your frame determines whether she will respect you and stay attracted in the long run. Your frame is the psychological and emotional context you create in every interaction. Who leads the conversation? Who sets the pace? Who decides what matters? Most men step into a woman's frame from the very first moment. She asks probing questions, and they rush to answer. She tests them, and they immediately justify themselves. She changes her mood, and they adjust their behavior to match. Without realizing it, by constantly reacting, they've handed her full control. And once you lose your frame, it's almost impossible to get it back. A man who keeps his frame doesn't play by someone else's rules. If she asks a challenging question, he doesn't rush to answer just to score points. Instead, he smiles, maintains eye contact, and may gently steer the conversation elsewhere. If her emotions swing suddenly, he keeps his own rhythm, not speeding up, not slowing down, simply holding steady. Stoicism teaches you have control over your mind, not external events. Holding your frame is applying this principle in real interactions. You can't decide what she will say, but you can always decide how you will respond. When you do this, you send a silent message. I lead in my own world. If you want to be here, you'll move at my pace. This doesn't mean being rigid or domineering. It's about steadiness, not being pulled into someone else's emotional tide. A date can be fun, relaxed, even full of laughter, yet the overall rhythm remains in your hands. Women feel safe in that because they know you won't change direction with every shift in their mood. When you hold your frame, you stop trying to fit into her story. Instead, you invite her into yours, a story with order, standards, and a clear direction. That's why men who hold their frame always come across as both attractive and trustworthy. 7. Let your presence speak louder than words. Some men don't need to say much, yet they command the attention of an entire room. It's not because they're trying to make an impression, but because every gesture, every glance, and the way they carry themselves already sends the message. I'm here. I'm steady. I don't need to compete. Most men do the opposite. They talk non-stop to fill the silence, laugh louder than necessary, brag, or flirt excessively. They believe that noise will make them stand out, but in reality, it dilutes their value. True presence isn't measured by how much you say, but by the quality of the energy you bring. A man with presence enters a space with upright posture, steady breathing, and grounded eyes. He doesn't scan the room seeking attention, nor does he rush to join every conversation. He observes, listens, and only speaks when there is something worth saying. This restraint makes every word he does speak carry more weight. Women notice this difference immediately. They start asking themselves, why isn't he trying to impress anyone? Who is he? What makes him so calm? That curiosity is a far stronger catalyst than any line you could use. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to control others. You only need to control yourself. When you bring calm, grounded presence, you influence the space around you without forcing it. You don't have to fight for the right to speak. But when you do speak, people listen. To build this kind of presence, train yourself in the small details. Stand still instead of shifting around. Hold eye contact without staring. Breathe deeply instead of quickly. Smile softly instead of forcing a grin. Most importantly, Allow silence to exist, so others can feel you, not just hear you. A strong presence transforms you from someone trying to be noticed into someone noticed without trying. And when a woman has felt that kind of pull, she'll remember you not for what you said, but for how she felt in your presence. 8. Attract with standards, not compliments. Most men, when meeting an attractive woman, react instinctively. They compliment her. "You're beautiful. I've never met anyone like you. You're truly special." They think these words will earn them points. But for a woman who's used to attention, such compliments become background noise. Too familiar to stir any real feeling. A truly magnetic man does not give away his value through effortless flattery. He doesn't hand out validation freely. He chooses carefully. And it's that selectiveness that creates intrigue. Standards are not just what you expect from others, but the principles you live by. When you have clear standards for attitude, behavior, respect for your time and energy, you send a message. I'm a man who knows what he wants, and I don't accept less than that. For example, if she arrives late without notice, you don't get angry, but you also don't brush it off as if it's nothing. You might simply say, I value my time, and I expect others to respect it too. With one calm sentence, you've shown your standards and your frame. Without arguments or lectures, when you live by your standards, a woman feels that your attention is something to be earned, not something given by default. This flips the dynamic. Instead of you proving you're worthy of her, she starts wanting to prove she meets your standards. Stoicism teaches, do not let the charm of appearances dull your judgment. A man with standards doesn't let looks cloud his evaluation of character, values, and how he's treated. He can appreciate beauty, but is truly drawn only when there is alignment in intellect, integrity, and lifestyle. Attraction built on standards has a unique pull. It doesn't flare up and die out like a spark, but burns steady and enduring. Because women don't just want to be admired, they want to be chosen. And when they feel they must rise to your standards, they invest more of themselves into the connection. 9. Kill neediness, become the prize. Nothing weakens attraction faster than a sense of neediness in a man. The danger is that this neediness often doesn't show up as obvious begging or pleading, but slips out in small behaviors. Texting back instantly every time, replying no matter how busy you are, or trying to stretch a conversation just to keep the connection alive. When you need a woman to feel complete, you've unconsciously placed her on a pedestal. From that moment on, the balance has shifted. You're no longer the steady man walking his own path. You've become the one trying to keep up with her steps. A truly attractive man doesn't look for wholeness outside himself. He was complete before he met her. He has his own life, his own goals, and his own values that no one can take away. A woman's presence in his life is a reward, not a condition for survival. When you let go of the need to have her, your entire energy changes. You no longer get anxious when she replies late, no longer feel the urge to prove your worth, and you don't break your own rhythm just to please someone else. You become a man who is hard to shake, and that, in turn, makes women want to be closer to you. Stoicism teaches, your happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts. When you master your mind, you stop letting someone's presence or absence dictate your emotions. You can still love deeply and care fully, but you never lose yourself in exchange for affection. Here's the paradox. When you stop needing, you start being wanted. Women aren't only drawn to what you give them. They're drawn to the curiosity about the world you've built, a world they must be invited into. When you become the prize, you no longer chase anyone. You stand in the center, steady, and let the right people find their way to you. This isn't a power game. It's the natural position of a man who knows who he is and isn't afraid to stand alone. 10. The man who needs nothing. There is a type of man who makes women both curious and irresistibly drawn to him. The man who needs nothing from them. It's not because he's cold or closed off, but because he was already complete before they appeared in his life. He doesn't seek love as a missing piece to fill himself. He doesn't need compliments to feel worthy, and he doesn't require anyone's presence to know who he is. Most men operate from a place of lack, trying to fill the void with attention, buying affection with material things, or reshaping themselves into what they think women want. But the man who needs nothing is different. He's still kind, still caring, but never abandons his center to earn validation. When a woman senses this, something shifts inside her. This is no longer surface-level attraction. It's deep curiosity. Why isn't he trying? Why doesn't he need me to prove anything? Who is he when he's not with me? Those questions keep her thinking about him, even without a clear reason. In Stoicism, this state is called apatheia, a mind untouched by outside forces. It's not emotional numbness, but total control over your inner world. You can fully enjoy a relationship, but if it ends, you remain whole. The man who needs nothing doesn't play push, pull games, or create artificial distance. He simply lives a full life with goals, passions, and principles. And if someone wants to join, they step into a world already running smoothly, not an empty space waiting to be filled. The attraction from this state doesn't flare up like fireworks and fade away. It lingers, like a subtle scent that stays long after you've gone. Women remember you not for what you did for them, but for how they felt when they were near you. Safe, free, yet never entirely sure they'd fully caught you. That's why, in the game of attraction, the man who needs nothing is often the one who ends up with everything. Conclusion: true attraction starts from within. The common thread running through every principle you've just read, from stopping the chase for approval, to needing no validation, to becoming the piece she can't leave, to holding your frame, raising your standards, and eliminating neediness, all comes back to one core truth: self-mastery. True attraction isn't in how you try to impress, but in how you can be fully present without needing to prove anything. It's not about winning every interaction, but about standing firm through every challenge. When you are calm, in control, and clear about your own value, women will sense it instinctively. Stoicism has endured for thousands of years because it speaks to a timeless truth. You cannot control the world, but you can always control yourself. And when you live this way, you stop chasing anyone. Instead, they begin moving toward you. Don't wait to become that man. Start today, eliminate neediness. Hold your frame, set your standards, and train your presence. When you do, you'll find that you not only attract women more naturally, but also draw in higher quality opportunities and relationships in every area of your life. If you want to keep exploring the power of masculinity, self-mastery, and timeless Stoic lessons you can apply in the real world, join the Light of Wise Elders community. Subscribe now, because the lessons ahead may just change the way you see yourself forever.